Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and we're in the last episode now of our faction focus for the Empire of Man in Warhammer the Old World. We've been through the entire army list, the magic items, we've had a comparison of units, we've just even had two in the last couple of episodes sample army lists. So as a round off to the faction focus videos, just like we did for the dwarves, I wanted to take a look at some of those units that either have had models in the past or in the Total Warhammer game, for example, are things that could appear in the future. We don't know, and we don't know what Games Workshop's going to do with the old world, the timeline, or anything else. But let's have a look and see what units are out there that that could make their way into the game in the future. So, character-wise, well, in Total Warhammer 3, you've got a Huntsman General. Actually, a really easy miniature to do. Certainly not timeline dependent. I mean, you could even convert this up pretty easily yourself and make him a. You could make it out of a general. A general has real. Lots of flexibility. You can give your generals these weapons, but when you're looking at a Huntsman general specifically, you'd want to see him having maybe some specific rules around that, being able to join Huntsman missile infantry and have special rules around skirmishing, vanguard, scouts, etc. Could do something interesting there. The other thing you've got is a master engineer. See, we do have engineers; they're hero level characters, but man, it would be cool to have something like a master engineer. You can see one there on a mechanical steed. That would be pretty cool. And lean into that sort of the known vibes. And really sort of potentially do something interesting with war machines or sort of missile infantry units and so on. So there's two potential characters there. In terms of special, Huntsman I think could be a special unit. If you think something like the dwarves have their rangers, you imagine you've got Huntsman here. So you do have Empire archers already. But you could see here Huntsman, you could have something different. I'd like to see Huntsman with a little bit more strength on their bows. They're designed to go down and sort of hunt monsters and things like that. So maybe you could give them some interesting rules around that. I think there's definitely things you could do with Huntsman to make them a bit different. Nuln Ironsides I think are quite interesting. You can see them in the bottom left. Again, that's in Total Warhammer. Again, quite easy to convert if you wanted. But the thing with Nuln Ironsides, you go, they're just handgunners. They're handgunners, but with lots of armor, so they're running around with heavy armor and stuff. So I think they could be quite interesting. A missile infantry unit that you can also sort of bring up to the front line because they've got some heavy armor. Maybe you could do some interesting things with how they work. Hochland long rifles, so a full unit of Hochland long rifles. So this is kind of like an Empire version of Jezzail's. I think that could be quite interesting. They're going to have quite a long range, but they're going to be quite small units. The only thing I think with the Hochland long rifles as an infantry unit, you might have to have rules around being able to snipe characters and models out of units. When you've got one on the table or two on the table, that's one thing. When you've got a whole unit of these, being able to snipe characters, I think would be a problem. So there would maybe need to be some adjustment around that. And the knightly orders, so Knights of the White Wolf, the Panther, the Blazing Sun, Knights of More, all these sort of things. Now, I'm not fully 100% up to date with the starting date for every one of these knightly orders, but we certainly know that in this time period there were Empire Knights, there would have been knightly orders for those Empire Knights. So in terms of the actual names and the flavours of them, we're yet to see, but you've got High Priest of Ulrich, so a knightly order of the White Wolf could be quite good. There were miniatures for Knights of the White Wolf, for Knights Panther in the past and so on. So I think that could be really cool. Again, you can give them special rules and extra flavour along with some, even an upgrade sprue, for example, to if you have like basic Empire Knights, and rather than making something completely new, you could go down an upgrade sprue path as well. I think that could be a different way to approach it. In terms of rare, well, you've got the War Wagon. That's a heavy chariot. So you can see that down there. That was actually a real miniature. War wagons, I think they look cool. There's nothing too futuristic about them. Essentially, it's just a giant wagon pulled by horses with a bunch of guys on top. I think that the war wagon is an interesting one, and I'm kind of surprised that we didn't kind of see that one come back. Marienburg Landship. It does exist as a miniature, right? It was a Forge World miniature. It's pretty big, but it's a fun miniature, and it would be cool to see that on the tabletop. Whether we'll see that big thing come back or not, I don't know. But it's pretty cool. It's funny. It's fluffy. I don't know when the Marienburg Landships though were first developed, so again, I don't know how that fits in with the timeline. The other thing you've got is a steam tank volley gun. So you've got your steam tank there, which you already have today. And steam tanks we know are in Warhammer the Old World. They do fit within the timeline. Well, there are different variants of steam tanks. One of those variants is the one with the volley gun on the front. And again, I think that could be a quite an interesting unit. There's a miniature down there that you can see, and these also appeared in Total Warhammer 3, for example. So again, all these units, things that we could see appear in the future. Now, I don't expect to see any of these appear in the sort of the Arcane Journal specifically. I think the Arcane Journals does tend to be around special character or special named characters, though we did see with Orcs and Goblins they had things like the Troll Hag and so on. So maybe we'll see something in there. Maybe we'll see a different variant of Steam Tank, or maybe we'll see a War Wagon or something come back. But I don't expect to see too much of this in an Arcane Journal. More likely this could be for something like a second edition of Warhammer the Old World, a second wave release with a new Forces of Fantasy book, which should update a whole bunch of armies and so on, which is one of the things you've got. It's nice having all the rules in one book, but at the same time, updating one army is actually quite difficult because you'd have to essentially update the entire book with all the army lists in, so which is less than ideal. But there you go. So these are some of the missing units that you never know might make their way into Warhammer the Old World in the future. We hope the game has longevity and is well supported by Games Workshop. If the Games Workshop store is anything to go by, things seem to be out of stock all the time. So either it's really, really popular and people are buying stuff, or Games Workshop really have completely fallen apart when it comes to stock levels. And I think there's probably a combination of both things in there. But certainly from everyone I've spoken to, Warhammer the Old World seems to be pretty popular and doing quite well. So you never know. We could see this stuff in the future when GW actually invests some money. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the Empire faction focus in Warhammer the Old World. Next up will be the Bretonnians. We are going through the Forces of Fantasy book first, and we're doing it literally as the order is in the book. So we did Dwarves, we've now done Empire, then we're going to do Bretonnians, and then obviously onto the Wood Elves and High Elves before we move on to the other book with Tomb Kings and so on. So next up, Bretonnia. Keep an eye out for that. Like I say, these faction focus videos do take a long time to prepare and work on. So just have to give me a bit of time. We're trying to get content out as quickly as I can, but I do have a day job as well. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And say if you do want to keep seeing these faction focuses, please hit that subscribe button on the channel. It's really, really important. It's totally free. It takes a few seconds, but it's such a massive deal for me. So thank you for that. And thank you to those that have already subscribed to the channel. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very, very soon.